Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Terrorists! Terrorize this.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Yes, I agree with you, Neo, and I agree with Mr. Mark Twain, who holds our quote for the evening. Apparently, there is nothing that cannot happen today, Mr. Mark Twain. And with that, we'll kick the program off. The last program of 2011. Greetings, free thinkers, revolutionaries, defenders of the Republic, and red pill poppers. It is Thursday, December 29th, 2011. And you have found yourself standing at the crossroads here on the front lines in this war on our humanity. I'm your host, Darren Stone, broadcasting to you live from radioactive windswept FEMA Region 1. It's been very windy here, very, very windy. Tonight's call-in number is 917-889-3064. It's all for you, people. That's what this number is here for. It's all for you. It's your phone line, your call-in number. So call in and let your voice be heard because, remember, kids, getting hauled off to a secret prison in Uzbekistan because you booked a hotel room with cash is not the time to let your voice be heard. 917-889-3064. And that's the number. So dial it up at any point in time during the program if you have something to say, you want to get something off your chest, whatever you want to talk about. Dial it up. All right. Before we get rolling on the show, standing room only in the chat room this evening. I like to see that, yes. Before we get started this evening, I'm going to do some plugs like I normally do. And then I have some thoughts off the top of my head. You know, as I'm getting ready to do tonight's program, I'm like, do I do a end of the year program? Do I do a culmination of significant events that have transpired in 2011? And I decided no. I've already reported on all that stuff. You guys already know all that stuff. So we're just going to do a regular old show for the last program of 2011 and just cover some up-to-date, pertinent information. That's the route I'm taking. All right. So before we get rolling here, the plugs. All right, look, this is what do you call this? A grassroots operation. We need your funding. Not a lot of funding, people. $20 and I send you a killer T-shirt. Okay? Check out the website. Look, if information that you get from radio programs like this is no longer available to you due to legislation like SOPA or legislation like the Patriot Act or the NDAA, because any of those three pieces of legislation can be applied in some way to stop the flow of information from programs like this, websites like mine, all that stuff. Then I'm going to threaten you right now. I'm going to threaten you and say that if you do not support programs like this, and I don't care if you support this one. Well, that's a lie. I do. But as long as you're supporting programs and the flow of information like this, that's what really matters in the grand scheme of things. It's not so much this individual program, although I happen to be a little bit partial to this show because it's mine. But look, any program like this that gives out information like this one does, please support it with a donation of $20. You can donate anything you want. You can donate $1, 50 cents, $2, $3, whatever. But if you donate $20 or more, or for every $20 you donate, I'll send you a T-shirt. I used to tell you at the beginning when I started this show almost 2 years ago, I would never do that, or I would try not to do that. Well, unfortunately, the time is here where I kind of had to, and I figured I would just leave it in fate's hands. Look, if I don't get enough support, if I can't sell 2 T-shirts, 3, actually, it would be 5 T-shirts a month. If I can't get rid of 5 T-shirts a month for $20 a piece, then I guess there's no reason for the show to be on the air. So that's how I look at it. So anyway, support the show, support free speech. If you don't, you're going to be stuck with CNN and Fox. Okay? That's it. And you'll know nothing. Like Thomas Jefferson said, the man who reads the newspaper is less informed than the man who reads nothing at all. And that can hold true for today with mainstream media news. I can't even look at it. I don't have television anymore. Most of you guys know that from listening to the show for a while. I don't pay for any satellite or a cable subscription or anything like that. And when I'm out in a store and I see news, or at a friend's house and I see news, I cannot even believe the garbage that comes out of there. It's a show. That's all it is. It's bells, whistles, cleavage, short skirts, and a bunch of nonsense that really doesn't give you any information whatsoever. All it does is leads your thought process with emotion. You know, that's really it. There's really no pertinent information to be had from any of those I guess we'll use the term news outlets. But anyway, so pick up a T-shirt. Okay, they're pretty kick-ass. Check it out on frontradio.net. You know, it's a nice looking shirt. Yeah, you'd wear it out. All right. Also, still running the first person that is a member of the Front's Facebook page that gets 5 people they know to like the page, send you a free T-shirt. It's all I have, besides knowledge to give you. That's it. And I know I've been talking about the next newsletter, the second one from the Front. Hit a little bump in the road this week, but those newsletters will be in your email inboxes by the first of the year. I promise. All right? I have now promised. So that will be my main focal point to get that out to you by the first of the year. Also, a couple plugs for some friends. Government Rag, of course. My friend Stephanie Sledge features the Front Radio program on her homepage, governmentrag.com. Excellent truth or news on that page. Check it out. Also, the most important thing happening in the world today is the radioactive fallout from Fukushima. This could be trumped by World War III coming up here, but at this point, it is the most important thing going on in the world, is the cover-up that is Fukushima. So if you want all the up-to-date, pertinent information on that, check out RadChick on Facebook.com and FukushimaFacts.com. And last but not least, my buddies over at Orion Talk Radio Network who are working with RadChick on her I guess it's every other day, every 3 days, RadChick is putting out a radioactive fallout forecast for the globe, for the entire globe. So, okay, I think I'm back. You know, it's great. It's really great. Skype will stay connected for 36, 48 hours straight. As soon as you jump on the air, disconnected. I don't know. Anyway, we are back, people. All right, so as I was saying before, the internet gods or the FBI, one of the two, decided to knock me off the air. Let's see. Okay. I was talking about the ramp up to World War III. And look, let's see here. As we're looking at this, and Iran, now, I'm not going to go through the history of the United States and Iran. In my opinion, we're constantly screwing with those guys. Look, eventually, you get picked on enough, you're going to say, screw you, okay? And that's pretty much what Iran is saying. They're not backing down from us at all, and they really shouldn't. But now Iran is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, which a large portion of the world's oil gets shipped through. This Pentagon official that I was referring to before I went with the dead air is, and I can't remember his name, and I could not find the quote, but he said something along the lines of this. He said, basically, if Iran shuts down the Strait of Hormuz, then the United States, and this was his words, will get, quote unquote, sucked in to a regional and possible global conflict. Now, I don't know how you get sucked in when you have surrounded a country with military forces. And, the thing I think about is Russia and China they've already said that an act of war against Iran will be considered to be an act of war against them. Who is this person, this Pentagon official? And this line of thinking runs throughout our government and throughout a portion of the populace in this country. Who are these people that can actually justify bringing us to thermonuclear worldwide war because Iran shuts down the Strait of Hormuz? Now, look, I know the ramifications of oil pricing and all these other things that will happen. Well, but see, that just feeds into the lie of the whole oil thing, which I'm not going to get into because I have other things to cover tonight. Okay? There is no such thing as alternative energy for us, the masses. That's all a lie that we're fed, because alternative energy or free energy, using the sun, using geothermal, using wind, using magnets, using whatever is out there for free energy will never be available to us, because that means you have freedom. You see, none of us can go out and drill our own oil and survive that way. But we could all survive if we had big solar generators outside of our homes. Shoot, you think, $15, $16, $17 trillion spending sprees by the government and the Federal Reserve, handing it out to all their buddies overseas and wherever they are. We probably could have outfitted the majority of homes in this country with a solar generator big enough to power the majority of their home. But that would do a few things. It would clean the environment, and it would give us all free energy and lower our costs. But you see, that's really not what it's all about. It's all about keeping you under control. So that whole thing is a lie. So I just have a huge issue with Department of Homeland Security saying people like me and people like you guys that are listening to this program, we are extremists according to our government. We're extremists because we believe in freedom and the right to the pursuit of happiness, and we believe in supposed documents that are the foundation of our country. But that's extremist. But you see, bringing us into a global nuclear conflict is not considered extreme. It's the world of opposites, everybody. Amazing. I can't even. I don't even understand how people justify this type of thing to themselves. But anyways, those are just things I'm thinking of now. I'm going to take I have a caller on the line here. Oh, no, I don't. Never mind. I'm going to take a turn of 180 on this real quick. Look, long-time listeners of the program, I used to cover space stuff on this show quite extensively. I've had many guests covering the topic of Planet X and sun activity and things like that because I find it very interesting, and I believe that our true history is the greatest secret that's been held from us. And so I look to all sorts of information, try to put pieces together, right? So I haven't talked about anything as far as Planet X or space goes for a while, but I got an email today from a guy I had on my show. He's actually my first guest, way back in the summer of 2009. 2009, 2010, 2010. And it wasn't an email specifically to me. I'm on his email list, but he has a quote from astrophysicist James McCanney. Now I don't know how many of you guys out there know about Jim McCanney. A lot of people consider him a very credible source. I don't really know. I can't really say one way or another. All right, but I'm just going to read this to you. This little post that James McCanney put out in reference to Comet Lovejoy. What I've heard of Jim McCanney, he's pretty sensible. But I have to be honest, I haven't listened to a ton of his shows, a few. All right, so I'm putting this out there for James McCanney fans and people who are interested in the space stuff and the Planet X theory. So here it goes. It's not long, and then we'll get back to some more earthly news here. December 28, 2011 posting. As we approach 2012 and all the hype that will go with it, ponder one simple fact related to the recent comet Lovejoy that passed through the solar atmosphere and came out on the other side as a medium-sized planet nucleus and then reignited into a full-size comet after spending hours within the scathing hot solar atmosphere. A 600-foot-long ice ball, which is NASA's theory, I seriously doubt it, could not possibly be true. Every time, well, you would think ice would melt if it was basically grazing the sun. I doubt could not possibly be true. Every time any new comet data comes in, remarkably supports 100% of my work and denounces 100% of the NASA concepts. This starts the domino principle with space science theories and leads to the real bottom line issue. Planet X. Remember, there are thousands of Planet X-type objects related to our solar system, but here is the point I want to concentrate on as we head into 2012 and all the lunatic hype. Comet Lovejoy was a planet in form as a comet, and it was huge, bigger than big, the biggest comet in history to come into the inner solar system, discovered by an amateur from Australia just before it hit the field of view of NASA's SOHO solar observing satellite. Now let's get real NASA fans and Trekkies and all you real people out there too. There are two possibilities regarding this comet. Either NASA saw it coming and did not say anything, or it did not see it coming. These are the only two possibilities. Let's examine the first. For years, NASA has stated that it's honest and forthright, and if any dangerous object were to show its ugly head, it would inform us all. That's what NASA says. Well, did they see this massively huge comet coming and fail to mention it? I don't know. It sure would be a noteworthy scientific news event by anyone's standard. By the way, it came directly out of the South, where Harrington of the Naval Observatory was taking photos of what he called Planet X in the early 1990s. Could this be a precursor to the real Planet X that Harrington was observing? So did NASA see it and not tell us, only to let an amateur from down under discover it just before hitting the publicly available satellite cameras? Or did they not see the biggest inner solar system comet in recorded history as it made its way all the way to the sun from the far reaches of the solar system? I guess it sure would seem odd with all the equipment NASA has and programs designed to search out and track any object bigger than a grapefruit that could cause alarm for Earthlings. How could this thing slip by NASA and all the equipment? Either way you cut it, NASA will not be telling you if something comes in the solar system that is huge, and to boot, they will lie about what it is. Yes, lie to the hilt. If you have not already done so, scroll down to the link and find the secure blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there you go. That's okay, so that's just the latest statement from James McCanney concerning Comet Lovejoy, Planet X, and since I haven't covered anything like that in a while on the program, I figured I would, so I did. All right, so let's get back down to earth. Oh, we have a comment in chat from a guy named American Idiot. You can believe the diversion if you choose while the government keeps nailing you. Well, American Idiot, I don't think Planet X is really on mainstream television everywhere, distracting everybody. It's kind of in the underbelly of alternative reporting, so it's not really that big of a distraction. But anyway, here is Obama. Have you guys heard Obama's new new campaign slogan? All right. Here it is. He's just a dude. Yeah, I didn't know how else to present that to you, really. Yeah. So forget all the headlines reporting about the Obamas vacationing and the First Lady's $2,000 sundress, the President's 6+ hour golf outings, and their 3-hour, $100 a person dinner tasting at the posh Alan Wong's restaurant in Honolulu, because above all, Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, just want you to know that he's just a dude. Just a dude. Yes, this is actually, I don't know if this is really what they're going to run with, but softening his image and making him appear more approachable than his whining White House press corps kept far from his Hawaiian vacation stop suggests the campaign is distributing a short interview with one of the president's donor dining guests, who said his host was far from Superman. He's just a dude, said Casey Hebling, who attended Obama's hot dog dinner with low-dollar donors in Northern Virginia last October. Quote, "It was great to have a frank conversation with him, to realize he's not Superman," he added. Wow. So before the guy had a hot dog with Obama, he thought he was Superman. It's amazing. The campaign, in using Heilberg's interview and emails from the president, First Lady, and even former presidential body man Reggie Love, to promote his second donor dinner for the campaign, aides say that the dinners are extremely successful in raising money and engineering supporters. Hebling, a Minnesota businessman, joined by 3 other guests as the October dinner, told Fox 9 News in Minneapolis at the time that the president seemed very down to earth. When he asked about Obama's daily routine, if I have a chance to sit down with Obama, I'm not going to ask him about his daily routine. Are you? I don't think so. Even if I liked the guy, I don't think I'd talk to him about his daily routine. I think there's many other things on the table that we have to talk about. Yeah, how'd this go? Mr. President, tell me about your daily routine. You actually think that happened? I doubt it. But here's what Obama said. He goes, well, Obama said he gets up around 7 a.m., gets to the gym and has breakfast and goes downstairs to work about 9, and he works nonstop until 6:30. Then at 6:30, he goes home. That's it. All right. So there you go. So Obama, the campaign slogan is, he's just a dude. So, like I said in my show description, hey dude, where's my car, my house, my money, my pursuit of happiness, my freedom, my job, everything else. All right, so moving on from his new campaign slogan to this type of thing. Now, I haven't ranted on the show for quite some time. I've been trying to behave myself. But this is the kind of thing that sets me off. Obama nominates Carlyle Group partner to the Federal Reserve. Now, those of you who don't know what the Carlyle Group is, the Carlyle Group is one of the entities that basically controls the United States government. Them, along with the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, United Nations. And then we go up the ladder from there to the banking structure. But the Carlyle Group. So while Obama is on his vacation in Hawaii, he decided to give his buddy Jerome Powell a buzz on the secret Obama phone to serve on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. What the hell, right? This may not seem like a big deal to most of you right now, but let me finish. Powell served as the Undersecretary for Finance under George W. and was a partner of the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group is a massive private equity firm and one of the largest defense contractors in the world. Now, let's just think about this for 1 second. The Carlyle Group is a massive private equity firm and one of the largest defense contractors in the world, now tied in Now, this isn't the first time people like this have been tied in. I'm just using this as a point or as an example. So don't you guys think, or doesn't it stand to reason, that somebody involved with the Federal Reserve, the monetary system in the United States, the entity that controls inflation and deflation, controls the value of your currency, which basically controls your entire life, has members of the largest defense contractor in the world sitting on the board. On that note, do you think that World War III sounds like a distinct possibility, or the culture of war seems like it will remain a constant for the remainder of our time? Unless we put an end to things like the Federal Reserve and the rogue criminal government that's occupying the White House right now, then yes, would be the answer. So, back to the Carlyle Group. They're made up of some of the most influential policymakers over the last 5 administrations, including both Bush presidents, former Secretary of State James Baker III, former Secretary of Defense Frank Carlucci, former Clinton Chief of Staff Mac McLarty, and former SEC Chairman Arthur Levitt, to name a few. Other notable investors in the Carlyle Group include the bin Laden family and the Saudi royal family. Coincidentally, George W. Was meeting at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This was Big Georgie Bush, not Little Georgie Bush, at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Washington on the morning of September 11th with one of Osama bin Laden's brothers. Yeah, crazy coincidence, I know. Probably nothing to it. This is not the first time Obama has placed Bush Sr.'s minions into influential positions. In August 2010, Daniel F. Akerson, the managing director of the Carlyle Group, in what was called a, quote, surprise move, was named the CEO of General Motors, otherwise known as Government Motors. So once again, Barry Soetoro reveals that change will remain absent under his leadership, and the military-industrial complex will continue on their campaign of global domination. There you go. There you go. So that's what the dude, he's just a dude like you, yet he can phone from his secret phone while on vacation and put some of the most powerful people into the most powerful positions at will. But you see, it's not really Obama's decision. Obama's just doing what he's told to do. That's all. That's why no election is going to change any of this. Not even Ron Paul. I hate to break it to everybody, but I just don't see it. Not when they blow people's heads off in the middle of the street in broad daylight in front of a crowd on television because he wanted to challenge the Federal Reserve. Of course, I'm referring to Kennedy. Ron Paul knows this. So he's either insane, in denial, or he knows he can't win, and he's just going to bring as much attention to the issues as possible. Or he's a complete shill. I really don't know. Honestly, I don't. Neither do you guys. We don't know. But along these lines of other people running the United States government, besides the people that we are told run it, I just have a little short clip of Hillary Clinton in one of her visits to the Council on Foreign Relations' new, as she calls it, outpost in Washington, D.C., where she basically gets on her knees and services the council. All right? Let me get this sound clip up for you here. Where is it? It's just a massive library of sound bites, really. Here we go. Here it is. Check it out. Here's Hillary telling you that somebody else tells her what to think and do.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. we get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future. I mean,
Yes. So the little reptilian globalist suck-up that is Hillary Clinton says she's happy that she no longer has to go to the mothership. She just will have to go to the outpost right down the road in Washington, D.C., where she can be told what exactly to think and do about the future. How's that sit with everybody? Pretty good? I mean, you think we have a government made up of Democrats and Republicans that are elected by free elections? I don't think so. I mean, how can anybody dispute that right there? Why is that not played on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC over and over and over and over and over again? I mean, if they played that as many times as they played footage of the planes hitting the towers, we might be somewhere else by now. I don't know. But you see, of course, they won't do that. All right. Now, I have this article here. I saw this thing today, and I said I could do the whole show around this. I also have some listener email that I wanted to get to, too. And you know who you are, a listener who emailed me with some excellent questions and points. I'm going to try to get to that, too. If I don't get to it this show, I will get to it shortly, but I'm going to try to get through this show. So this article here it's titled 40 Hard Questions That the American People Should Be Asking Right Now. It doesn't go into say who they should be asking it to, but my opinion is we should be asking it to each other because, you see, we're the only people that are going to change anything. And it has been ingrained in our nature to expect somebody who is wealthier, more educated, holding a higher position in society, or anything that some person would perceive as higher in the societal hierarchy than them, that those people will take care of the problems. It's this type of weird parental thing we have. Like, we need somebody bigger than us to take care of us. We need a government, a father figure, a parental figure to take care of us. But you see, my opinion about that is we've been engineered or conditioned to believe and think that way. Because what that does is it takes the power and the responsibility out of our hands. Life's a lot easier, or it would seem to be a lot easier if we only had to worry about our small little circle of life that we operate in, and if we don't think we have the ability to change anything larger than that. So in thinking like that is why I said we should be asking these questions to each other, because these types of questions will open up debate, open up the ability to do some free thinking, some critical thinking, have some conversations that may be uncomfortable at times, but, we have to get a little bit outside of our comfort zone in order to make changes. I mean, those of you who have been listening to the show for a while know that my main line of work for the majority of my life has been a physical trainer. When I would be working with a client, one of the points I had to get across to a client was we have to go outside your comfort zone in order for your body to physically change. If your body can handle everything that we're doing here during this, workout or whatever we're doing, then there's no need for your body to change. It's when we get to the point when your body can no longer handle it, and we keep getting to that point repeatedly, that your body goes, okay, obviously I have to either build more lean muscle tissue, become more flexible, whatever it's going to be in order to complete this new task that's being put upon me. This is the same as us living right now. We have to go outside of our comfort zones in order to make a positive change. And if you guys in the chat room, and I know the people that are going to listen to this later on a podcast or a download won't have the opportunity to see the pictures that I post up for the live broadcast, but one of the pictures I have is a sign, and it says there's still time to do good things. And that is true. There really is time to do good things. You know, we are not at the end of our rope here. It may seem that way because we deal with so much negativity and so much bad news all the time. But the truth is that if we weren't powerful and we didn't have the ability to make changes, well, then the control mechanism that's been built up around us would have never been built up around us. It's built up around us to contain us because we're scary, because there's a lot of us. And if we all realize what's been going on, we can change it like that. So there's still time to do good things. So even though we cover so much doom and gloom in this program and programs like it and the stuff we see on the internet, it can all go away. It really can. We can stop it because there's a small portion of people on this planet that are perpetuating these types of things. This is not trust me, everybody. I mean, I believe that the majority of people on this planet do not want thermonuclear world war. And I really can't see how anybody in their right mind can justify that. So there has to be more to it. There has to be more to it than just Iran. You know, I mean, here's the thing. Think about this logically. The whole thing with Iran is we're afraid they're going to acquire a nuclear weapon and shoot it at the United States. So what's the answer? What's the ultimate answer that we're being presented with? The ultimate answer is, hey, instead of worrying about one nuclear missile and letting Iran be the idiot that decides to shoot off a nuclear missile at another country, okay, and have the world condemn them for it, I don't think they would actually do it. I really don't. But then again, I'm not part of the Iranian government, so I really don't know. But I just doubt they would. But let's just think for a second. We're worried about them shooting a missile over here. So the answer to it is all-out thermonuclear world war with thousands of nuclear missiles being shot off everywhere. Does that seem like a rational, logical solution to the problem? If it actually is a problem, which I personally don't believe it is a problem, because I don't believe anything that comes out of American news media. I don't believe anything that our government says. Not one single thing do I ever believe they say. Why should I? If I lied to you as much as our government did, hell, if I lied to you 10 times that you've been listening, in the times you've listened to this show, you probably wouldn't listen to me. Now, I may have said some things that aren't true, but that wasn't my intention. I may have found that they're not true later, but my intention was not to lie to you. Their intention is to purposely mislead us and lie to us. So why would we ever believe anything that these people say, especially risking China and Russia bombarding the United States with nuclear weapons? Because guys, if anybody thinks that World War III will not be fought on American soil, you think you're going to be able to kick back with a bag of chips and a beer and watch it on television? It's not going to be that way. It's just not. The whole thing is just ridiculous. All right, so anyway, I didn't even get into the article, and that's how far off on a tangent I went there. So these questions are things that we have to ask ourselves. So we're going to get down some truthful questions here, okay? There's 40 of these. I'm not going through all 40. I highlighted a few. Well, I highlighted quite a bit, but I'll just kind of rip through them. And if anybody wants to call in while I'm going through these questions and comment on any of them, feel free. 917-889-3064. All right? So here, why is the Federal Reserve bailing out Europe? Why? Why? And why are so few members of Congress objecting to this? Well, it's a simple answer. Because the Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the United States. It's part of the global centralized banking system. It's the Trojan horse in the United States that funnels the money, all of our money out of here. It's the big vacuum. That's the sucking sound. What's his name? Ross Perot heard. Yes, he was referring to NAFTA and GATT, but we know who the the creators behind that were. So this next question. The U.S. dollar has lost well over 95% of its value since the Federal Reserve was created. The U.S. national debt is more than 5,000 times larger than it was when the Federal Reserve was created. And the Federal Reserve Chairman, Benny Bernanke, has a track record of incompetence that is absolutely mind-blowing. But here, see, this is a disconnect right here. Bernanke is doing exactly what Bernanke is supposed to do. This is not a bunch of screw-ups by Bernanke. If these were actual screw-ups, he wouldn't be where he is. That's why none of these things that have transpired in our history that have led us to this point are mistakes. These are planned events. And that's why there is a conspiracy against the world populace. So what possible justification is there for allowing the Federal Reserve to continue to issue our currency and run our economy? There is no possible justification. There is none. I mean, so the Federal Reserve was sold to the American people as a stabilizer of economies and would allow the ability of economic growth through proper regulations. But 100 years later, here we are. The U.S. dollar has lost 95% of its value, and the national debt is 5,000 times larger. But hey, we'll get in the streets if if the Yankees win the World Series or the Lakers win the NBA championship. But rape me of everything I've ever earned or made or have any ability to or the ability to live a happy, peaceful life, and I won't say a peep. Because if I do, that's extremist, right? All right. Next question here. What did the head of the IMF mean? That's the International Monetary Fund, for people that don't know. The head of the IMF mean when she recently said that we could soon see conditions reminiscent of the 1930s depression. What did she mean? Let me scratch my head for a second. She meant that the raping is going to continue until there's nothing left to rape. That's what she meant. Next question. If the one thing that almost everyone in the Republican Party seems to agree on is that Obamacare is bad, then why is the candidate that created the plan that much of Obamacare was based on leading in so many of the polls, which would be Mitt Romney? These guys there's no argument between the Republicans and the Democrats at the upper levels. It's WWF wrestling. That's all it is. Next question. Why are the middle-class families being taxed into oblivion while the big oil companies receive about $4.4 billion in specialized tax breaks for a year from the federal government? It's because we're slaves. That's why. Sleeping sheeple slaves. Why, here's question number 14. Why have we allowed the too-big-to-fail banks to become even larger? You see, this is when you see, this is globalism, okay? This is when you see all these bank closings out there. I haven't even checked on the latest tally of how many banks have closed in 2011, all right? Thousands, I'm sure. But they're banks that most of us haven't heard of on a national level. So, when are the big guys going to get shut down? Well, see, they're not. Like Bank of America and JP Morgan, these guys are just eating up the smaller banks. It's consolidation. Same thing that happened in the Great Depression. Everything was bought up by the banking system for pennies on the dollar. That's the same thing that's going to happen. And this is when people say, "Hey, Darren, you say the economy is going to collapse and the bankers are part of the problem. They're doing it. Well, why would the bankers do it? They use money too." It's because when you position yourself to be on the short side, you make out bigger than you're positioning yourself on on the big side, on the profit side. See, if you set yourself up, then you know, okay, this property value is going to diminish at this point in time. I'm ready to swoop in with a couple pennies. Do I have a couple pennies? No, I got some pennies. Here's some pennies. There you go. And I'll buy up everything, because you're now in a position where you need anything. You need some money to survive. So we can take all your crap away from you, give you a little bit of money so you can eat that night. And the other thing is, when the U.S. dollar is gone, officially gone, that's another question I get. Well, why would they want the dollar to go? They use dollars. Well, yeah, okay, but what's going to be introduced will be a much more controllable, trackable, traceable currency. And that means people like the banksters can ensure that they get every single penny paid to them that they feel is coming to them, which means that you can no longer go work anywhere under the table. You can't pick up a few extra bucks on the side. And who knows what your tax rate will be at that point, because it'll be whatever they tell you it's going to be, because if you don't like it, through your little electronic money card or RFID chip or whatever type of technology they're going to use, they will just shut you off and take what you have. So you'll shut up and you'll do what you're told. That's why they don't care if the American dollar goes away. And people will go, oh, it's much too complex. It's much more complex than you're making it. No, it's really not. It's really not more complex than I'm making it. It's supposed to appear more complex than I'm making it, so that most people go, well, I don't really get it. I'll leave it up to all those smart guys. So what time's Dancing with the Stars start? What time's the game on? All right. Next question. Why has the United States had a negative trade balance every single year since 1976? Well, pretty simple. That's the plan, to deindustrialize the United States. Look, the reason a country like the United States, who, look, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we've been one of the biggest a-holes on the planet, okay? We're the only people that have dropped nuclear weapons on another country. Oh, and we classified those as tests, by the way. That was thermonuclear warhead test 2 and 3 in our country's history of thermonuclear weapons. Did you know that? That was test 2 and 3. The only reason we haven't been invaded by other countries is because, well, we have a big military and we have a lot of private guns. Those are the two reasons. So the only way to take down a country like the United States is from the inside out. And that's obviously what's happening. I don't need to go into that. You guys know that by now. And if you don't, thank you for coming to the program. So next question. Back in 1970, 25% of all jobs in the United States were manufacturing jobs. You see, the importance with manufacturing is this. Manufacturing trickles down into all other industries. Okay? It trickles down. That's where job creation is. That's how it works. So, and look, the globalists know this, and this is why they did NAFTA and GATT to us when 70+% of the country was opposed to NAFTA and GATT, and they passed it anyways. That's a taxation without representation, in my opinion, which is why I think we should all stop paying taxes right now. But a lot of people are too scared to do that. And that goes back to perception. It's all how we perceive this stuff. But today, so remember, back in 1970, 25% of all jobs in the United States were manufacturing jobs. Today, only 9% of all jobs in the United States are manufacturing jobs. Next question. If the United States has lost an average of 50,000 manufacturing jobs a month since China joined the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization, in 2001, after 9/11, and I'm not saying the specific date, I'm just saying since then, why don't our political politicians do something about it? Well, because our political politicians are our political politicians, I imagine, and I'm purely speculating at this point, in the hierarchy of politicians down there in the Beltway, I believe the guys in the top echelon know exactly what's happening, and they probably have an attitude like this. Well, look, as long as I do what the bankers tell me to do, I can continue to live my lavish lifestyle. I can commit crimes, white-collar crimes, all I want. I can lead good men and women to war and be slaughtered for profits, since 96% of Congress is invested in defense contracting corporations. And then I can just skulk off into the sunset whenever my term is done, or whenever I decide to, quote unquote, step down, with no repercussions whatsoever. That's why politicians don't do anything about it. And they know if they do try to do something about it, they'll probably end up like that Wheeler guy, stumbling around with one shoe on and dead in a landfill somewhere. Or like John F. Next question. If you can believe it, more than 56,000 manufacturing facilities in the United States, 56,000 manufacturing facilities in the United States have permanently closed down since 2001. Yeah, recovery's right around the corner, everybody. Right around the corner. Oh, hey, look. No, wait a minute. Didn't Barry tell us back in the spring of 2009, it's recovery summer, green shoots everywhere. Hey, look, everybody, go back to school, learn a tech trade. What? Okay, and what do I do in the meantime, Barry, while I lose my job and have to go to school? How do I eat, support my home while I'm learning a new tech trade? Here's a zinger for you. Why was the new Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial on the National Mall made in China? I know why. I know why. Refer back to question 18 and 17 and 16. All right, next question. Why do about a third of all U.S. states allow borrowers who don't pay their bills to be put in jail? Yes, good comment in chat. I have more of a chance of being bitten by a shark in my bedroom than the economy recovering. That's pretty good. That's a good one. You probably do. I'm sure you do. But think about that. That's debtor's prison, right? And you're going to get people out there, well, you should pay your bills, you freeloader. Look, man, one of my good friends works in the solar manufacturing industry, okay? He received an email by accident from top shareholders in his corporation, because his name, now he's just a floor manager in one of their plants, okay? They have plants all over the world. And my friend is just a floor manager in one of their plants. And his name happens to be the same name of one of the top shareholders on the board of his company. And he received an email by accident. That email was calling an emergency meeting of all shareholders to discuss moving the plants over to Indonesia because labor would cost them, I think it was $1.50 per week per labor person. Now, my friend, who has a family, bought a house last year. He's got debt. Should that guy be put in prison because once he loses his job, because his job gets brought overseas, should he be put in prison because he can't pay his bills anymore? Nope, he shouldn't. It's amazing when you really think about it, right? Next question. And this really has nothing to do with anything. It's just on here, and I don't know why it's on here, but I didn't hear this before, so I wanted to read it to you. The last words of Steve Jobs were, supposedly, these were his last words, quote, "Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow." What did he mean by that? I don't know. Did somebody whisper something in his ear? Did he see something? Was he just delirious on morphine? I don't know. Next question. How in the world did scientists in Europe decide that it was a good idea for them to create a new killer bird flu that is extremely contagious and easy to pass from human to human? This is why I laugh at people who get on my case when I denounce the medical industry in this country as doing anything to help anybody, and this government having any care about any human life anywhere. Really, who the hell is out there developing a killer bird flu? I think this one is called H5N1. But you see, they keep switching the 5 and the 1 and the H and the N around so that the common guy's like, it's the same crap, dude. Just the bird flu. H1N1, H1N5, H5N2, 2576, 8675309. Give me a buzz, Jenny. You know, I mean, it's just the same numbers getting mixed up all over the place. It's these word games. It's this Orwellian news speak. Are we on the verge of an absolutely devastating retirement crisis? On January 1st, 2011, the very first of baby boomers started to reach the age of 65. Now more than 10,000 baby boomers will be turning 65 every single day for the next 2 decades. So where in the world are we going to get all the money we need to pay them the retirement benefits that we have promised them? Well, we're not. So that may be one of the reasons for all those coffins down in Georgia that fit 3, 4, 5 people in them. That and people that are in debt, and people that speak out against the government, and people that like to pay in cash, and people that, I don't know, celebrate Christmas and use the word Christ in Christmas. I'm not a Christian. I call it Christmas because that's what I learned. That's the day for me. It's called Christmas. That's what I call it. Next question. If the federal government stopped all borrowing today and began right at this moment to repay the U.S. national debt at a rate of $1 per second, guess how long it would take to pay off the U.S. national debt? Guess how long? So when these people get on television and come up with budget cuts and tax programs and this to get the debt under control, if we paid $1 every second, it would take 440,000 years to pay off the debt. You see, and when you're in debt to somebody like China and you start kicking China's little brother around, Iran, then you have a big issue. Next question. U.S. national debt. Okay. If the U.S. economy is getting better, then why are an all-time record 46 million Americans now on food stamps? And to follow up with that, how can we say that we have the greatest economy on earth? I don't think we're saying that anymore. When we have a child poverty rate that is more than twice as high as France, and 1 out of every 4 children in this country is on food stamps. Hey, listen. Food stamps aren't so bad if you're J.P. Morgan, right? They make money off the food stamps. They're the ones that are running the food stamp program. See, they don't care if you're rich, poor, you have $1 or you don't. They just take whatever. even your kids, and send them off to war. Next question. Since 1964, the re-election rate for members of the U.S. House of Representatives has never fallen below 85%. So are the American people really that stupid that they would keep sending the exact same Congress critters back to Washington, D.C. over and over and over again? Well, I guess since 1964, if their re-election rate has never fallen below 85%, I guess we can answer that question with a big, resounding yes. Yes. The American people really are that stupid. Okay, but look, I'm going to throw a disclaimer in there. I think that it has a lot to do with conditioning, brainwashing, ignorance, and a lot of other things. But, yeah, I know, just a lot of other things covers a broad base. I understand that. But also, if you look up some documentaries on black box voting fraud, you'll see there's really no election. There's no election, So I think it's probably a mix. It's definitely a mix. And I don't know how much voting fraud goes on at the House of Representatives level. I really don't. I'm just saying in general, or Congress. I really don't know that. So, next question. Why do so many of our politicians think that it's a good idea to allow the U.S. military to arrest American citizens on American soil and indefinitely detain them without a trial? Well, because they figure if they vote yes, like they're supposed to on this, then they themselves won't be arrested by the military and hauled off and detained indefinitely without a trial. Simple, right? Simple answer. And the last question is this. A new bill being considered by the United States House of Representatives would give the U.S. government power to shut down any website that is determined to, quote, engage in, enable, or facilitate copyright infringement. Many believe that the language of the new law is so vague that it would allow the government to permanently shut down any website that even links very briefly to, quote, infringing material, end quote. Prominent websites such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube would be constantly in danger of being given a death penalty. The American people need to ask their members of Congress this question. Do you plan to vote for SOPA? If the answer is yes, that's a clear indication that you should never cast a single vote for that member of Congress again. All right. I'm a little more radical than that. I'm a little more extremist. I don't want World War III. Call me crazy. Call me radical. And I also don't want to be censored, and I believe I have the right to say what I want to say. Things like SOPA in relation to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, things like that, all like pages like mine, okay, like the front on Facebook. Any of you out there Facebookers who haven't liked that page, please go do so now. Go do so now. We can no longer, copy and paste and post articles written by somebody else. So you'll have an instant cutoff of information flow. The only things that we could write or we could post are things that we write ourselves. And, of course, that will lead to a lot of, who's that guy writing it? Is there any validity to that? Is he credible? Blah, 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 blah. And, of course, a lot of people aren't going to write stuff. They just won't. So the information flow will be cut off immediately. All right. Now, that is the end of that. I have a couple more things here. But what I wanted to do, I have a clip that I really wanted to play because I thought it was important. And although it may seem basic to a lot of people, I know I have a lot of new listeners, and I don't know how many listeners are informed enough to know these things, these types of things. Some are, some aren't. So I wanted to play this clip. It's about 10 minutes, okay? It's going to take up the half of the remainder of the show here. And it explains the difference between a democracy and a republic. We are supposedly, the United States was supposedly set up as a republic. Okay? Now, those of you who just started listening to the show, you'll know I'm not a big constitutionalist. Okay? Because personally, I don't believe any piece of paper gives me my rights as a free human being on this earth. Those are my rights. That's me. I'm a human being. I don't think that anybody has the right to tell me what I can and cannot do as long as I am not harming anybody and taking advantage of anybody for my own personal gain. So I wanted to play this clip because it makes it very clear what has happened to our government structure, how it operates against how it was created and how it was supposed to operate. So here it goes. I'll shut up, play this clip, and be back in about 10.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic. The difference between these two is essential in understanding Americanism and the American system. Before we discuss political systems, however, it's helpful to address the confusion that has been spread about the political spectrum. Many have been led to believe that the political spectrum places groups such as communists on the far left, fascists or dictators on the far right, and political moderates or centrists in the middle. However, a more accurate political spectrum will show government having zero power on the far right to having 100% power on the far left. At the extreme right, there is no government. The extreme left features total government under such labels as communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, princes, potentates, dictators, kings, any form of total government. Those who claim that Nazis and fascists are right-wing never define their terms. This amounts to spreading confusion. Toward the middle of the political spectrum can be found the type of government limited to its proper role of protecting the rights of the people. That's where the Constitution of the United States is. Those who advocate such a form of government are really constitutional moderates. So let's analyze the basic forms of government. They are monarchy or dictatorship ruled by one, oligarchy ruled by a few, democracy ruled by a majority, republic ruled by law, and anarchy, which is ruled by no one. In discussing these five, we'll see that they can be narrowed down to even fewer. Looking first at monarchy or dictatorship, this form of government doesn't really exist in the practical sense. It's always a group that puts one of its members up front. A king has his council of nobles or earls, and every dictator has his bureaucrats or commissars, the men behind the scenes. This isn't ruled by one, even though one person may be the visible leader. It's ruled by a group. So let's eliminate monarchy, dictatorship, because it never truly exists. Oligarchy, which is ruled by a group, is the most common form of government in all history, and it is the most common form of government today. Most of the nations of the world are ruled by a powerful few, and therefore oligarchy remains. At the other end, we find anarchy, which means without government. Some people have looked over history and found that many of its worst crimes were committed by governments, so they decided that having no government might be a good idea. But this is a mistake, because as the ancient Greeks stated, without law there can be no freedom. Our founding fathers agreed and held that some amount of government is a necessary force in any civilized, orderly society. In a state of anarchy, however, everyone has to guard life, liberty, and property, and the lives of family members. Everyone must be armed, and movement is severely restricted because one's property has to be protected at all times. Civilized people have always hired someone to do the guarding, a sheriff, a police force, or some branch of government. Once law enforcement was in place, the people were freer. They could leave their property, work in the fields, and so on. In short, the proper amount of government makes everyone freer. There are some who advocate anarchy, however, not because they want no government, but because they don't like what they have. They use anarchy as a tool for revolutionary change. The condition of anarchy is very much like a vacuum where something rushes in to fill it. These calculating anarchists work to break down the existing government with rioting, killing, looting, and terrorism. Tragically, the people living in such chaos often go to those best able to put an end to it and beg them to take over and restore order. And who is best able to put an end to the chaos? The very people who started it. The anarchists who created the problem then create a government run by them, an oligarchy, where they have total power. This is exactly what happened in Russia that led to Lenin taking total power, and in Germany, where Hitler's brown shirts created the chaos that brought him to power. But anarchy isn't a stable form of government. It's a quick transition from something that exists to something desired by the power-hungry. It's a temporary condition, and because it isn't permanent, we eliminate it as well. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratein, meaning to rule. Democracy, therefore, means the rule of the people, majority rule. This, of course, sounds good, but suppose the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children. Obviously, there has to be a limit. The flaw in democracy is that the majority isn't restrained. If more than half the people can be persuaded to want something in a democracy, they rule. What about republic? Well, that comes from the Latin, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public. It means the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is limited by law, leaving the people alone. America's founders had a clean slate to write on. They could have set up an oligarchy. In fact, there were some who wanted George Washington to be their king. But the Founding Fathers knew history, and they chose to give us the rule of law in a republic, not the rule of a majority in a democracy. Why? Let's demonstrate the difference in the setting of the Old West. Consider a lynch mob in a democracy. 35 horseback riders chase one lone gunman. They catch him, and they vote 35-1 to hang him. Democracy has triumphed, and there's one less gunman to contend with. Now consider the same scenario in a republic. The 35 horseback riders catch the gunman and vote 35-1 to hang him, but the sheriff arrives, and he says, "You can't kill him. He's got his right to a fair trial." So they take the gunman back to town. A jury of his peers is selected, and they hear the evidence and the defense, and they decide if he shall hang. Does the jury even decide by majority rule? No, it has to be unanimous, or he goes free. The rights of the government aren't subject to majority rule, but to the law. This is the essence of a republic. Many Americans would be surprised to learn that the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution, nor does it appear in any of the constitutions of the 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison, rightly known as the father of the Constitution, wrote in essay number 10 of the Federalist Papers, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Alexander Hamilton agreed, and he stated, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." The founders had good reason to look upon democracy with contempt, because they knew that the democracies in the early Greek city-states produced some of the wildest excesses of government imaginable. In every case, they ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. During that period in Greece, there was a man named Solon who urged creation of a fixed body of law not subject to majority whims. But where the Greeks never adopted Solon's wise counsel, the Romans did. Based on what they knew of Solon's laws, they created the 12 tables of the Roman law, and in effect built a republic that limited government power and left the people alone. Since government was limited, the people were free to produce, with the understanding that they could keep the fruits of their labor. In time, Rome became wealthy and the envy of the world. In the midst of plenty, however, the Roman people forgot what freedom entailed. They forgot that the essence of freedom is the proper limitation of government. When government power grows, people freedom recedes. Once the Romans dropped their guard, power-seeking politicians began to exceed the powers granted them in the Roman Constitution. Some learned that they could elect politicians who would use government power to take property from some and give it to others. Agriculture subsidies were introduced, followed by housing and welfare programs. Inevitably, taxes rose and controls over the private sector were imposed. Soon, a number of Rome's producers could no longer make ends meet, and they went on the dole. Productivity declined, shortages developed, and mobs began roaming the streets, demanding bread and circuses from the government. Many were induced to trade freedom for security. Eventually, the whole system came crashing down. They went from a republic to a democracy and ended up with an oligarchy under a progression of the Caesars. Thus, democracy itself is not a stable form of government. Instead, it is the gradual transition from limited government to the unlimited rule of an oligarchy. Knowing this, we as Americans are ultimately left with only two choices. We can keep our republic, as Franklin put it, or we will inevitably end up with an oligarchy, a tyranny of the elite.
So there you go. I thought that was pretty cut and dry, pretty simple to understand. You know, the one thing I want to say about it is when it mentions, you know, far left is democracy, far right, well, far left would be extreme versions of democracy like socialism, Nazism, fascism, all that stuff. Far right would be anarchy. You know, don't want people to confuse, you know, left and right with Democrat and Republican. You know, what we have today, all of these guys are far, far left. I mean, that's obvious. That should be obvious to everybody right now with the, you know, the way George Bush ran the presidency or was told to run the presidency, and how this has continued on under the supposed, you know, opposite party from the Republicans. We see the same thing. Now, I don't know. Personally, I have my doubts there will actually be an election in 2012. And I've said that for the last few years. I think that I have my doubts for a couple reasons. But let's just say that there is. Okay? If people out there who believe that the Republicans are evil and you know, Barack Obama needs another 4 years because those Republicans just stand in his way all the time. Never mind that the first 2 years of his presidency, the Democrats held the House and the Senate and everything. Okay, but we'll just base his presidency on the last 2 years and those damned Republicans that won't let him do anything. His hands are tied, darn it. He just appoints Republican buddies to high positions, like, you know, like Jerome to the Federal Reserve from the Carlyle Group. Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that, okay? You know, people who believe this thing, I wonder what they think when they hear things like the NDAA is passed and you know, would those people feel comfortable with somebody like, say, Dick Cheney in power with authority like that? I mean, we have to understand that obviously the legislature goes, you know, it goes from one president to the next. So it's just because you think, you know, your guy is going to do right by this, you know, ambiguously worded legislature, there's no guarantee that the next guy is going to come in and do right by it. And that's why we need, you know, legislature like when you get politicians up there talking about the NDAA and SOPA and saying, oh, it's, you know, it's great, it's good, it's, you know, no, that's just crazy. You know, we would never arrest American citizens because of their political beliefs and hold them without trial in a foreign prison. We'd never do that. Well, why don't you put that right in the legislation? Why don't you put that in writing instead of having me, you know, having us supposedly believe you? Just take your word for it, since you've really never told the truth about anything. All right. So now I have, what do I have left tonight? What do I have left? Well, I have my listener email I could go over. This listener has 5 different topics, 5 different questions that they wanted me to go over. 7 minutes left on the show. I don't really have time to do it all. But let's see what let's look at question number 1 here. And he writes, It's kind of a statement leading into a question. The globalists have made it obvious that they want to reduce the world's population by 90%. So why has the Catholic Church/Vatican persisted in their anti-birth control campaign for so long, creating so many, quote, useless eaters? So there's more slaves? He's asking a question. If these bastards, his words, so openly wanted to reduce the world's population as far back as the 19th century, why didn't they begin limiting birth rates by law back then, instead of allowing the population to spiral out of control and the necessity of having to cull down the herd by up to 95%? That's a great question. And this always leads me, this type of question leads me to this type of answer. Yes, it's to have slaves, sure. I don't think you need 6 billion slaves, and I don't think every one of those people in that 6 billion constitutes a slave, because a lot of them don't serve any type of system. You know, a lot do, but a lot don't. And I'm talking, poor, impoverished people in countries that have nothing, that live on, basically just lay on the ground in dirt, and that's their life. That's all they have. Don't worry. The UN's getting there eventually. Everybody down there in North Africa, they're getting there to help you out. They'll put you in a barbed wire fenced in camp and starve you to death. But my answer to this is this: I don't really know, but it leads me to believe, and I'll revert back to the true history of the human species, which you can believe in creation and you can believe in evolution. See, it's just like Democrats and Republicans. You only get two choices, and you can't prove either of them. So it just keeps you arguing amongst each other, and I include myself in this, you guys. I don't argue about this because I don't believe in creation and I don't believe in evolution, because can't prove either. It makes for a great argument that will last to the end of our days, right? So my opinion is that the origin of the human species is the greatest secret on this planet. And I believe there's probably people that know the origin of the human species. And I believe that secret is what allows them to keep us suppressed and oppressed. Because when we wake up in the morning, we view our life, or we consider our life to be consisting of this. I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and this, and then I go to bed tonight. And then I get up and I do this, and I do this, and I go to bed tonight, the next night. I think there's much more to us than this. And I think we're a lot more powerful than we have been led to believe. And that's why I always say things like, this is why the police state has been constructed around you. This is why the control grid has been put in place, because we are powerful. And if we ever come to realize our true abilities, our true powers, and I don't mean like superheroes with laser beams flying out of our eyes and, being able to, warp through walls and fly through the air, although that would be pretty cool. No, that's not what type of power I'm talking about. I'm talking about higher levels of consciousness, where our perception of the world we live in would be much different. And we wouldn't listen to such idiotic sound bites that come off the television and actually digest them, store them in some place in our psyche, and operate accordingly to those suggestions. We would be beyond that. Tactics like that would not work on us anymore. And then it's game over for the controllers. Now look, I know it sounds kooky, okay? But honestly, so does evolution and so does creation. So I don't think you can really argue with me on that. You may have a belief system concerning one of those things, but you can't prove it, okay? So I guess where I'm going with this is based on my listener's first question. If there is some type of part to our history that we're not being told of, I would venture towards that being a cyclical history. And we look at all the great civilizations that have been destroyed suddenly. Is that on the horizon for us? Would a massive cataclysmic global event cull the herd enough? Is this why they have underground places to live? I don't know. I don't know why people can see things and some people can't. I don't know. But anyways, everybody, there's still time to do good things, okay? we are powerful enough. We can change this. We just have to do it. We have to get out of our comfort zone and do it. And on that note, I'm going to wrap up the last broadcast for 2011. I appreciate all you guys in chat. Good chat tonight. I was watching it. Great job in there, you guys. Thank you for being cool. And I'll see you guys all in 2012. I'm going to put this out right now. I don't know if I'll do a show Monday or not. I may not, but I will definitely be back Thursday. Check the websites, frontradio.net, and the Front on Facebook for the latest info. And have a great New Year's, you guys. Be safe. Keep your chins up. You are powerful. See you in 2012.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.